organizational meeting of the Byram Hills Board of Education. Today is July 10th, 2018. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good morning. This will be a brief meeting for me to run, and we'll swear in a few folks. And once the board president is elected, he or she will preside over the meeting. So first order of business is to swear in the new board members. We have one new board member who's not present today, and I will swear him in at a later date. So right now we'll ask Scott Levy, who's our new president, or a new board member. So I'll ask him to rise and raise his right hand and read the oath.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Byram Hills School District Board of Education member for the term of 3 years, or actually for 2 more years, according to the best of my ability.
Okay, congratulations. And I'll just ask you to sign that, and you'll give that to me. Next order of business is to select the Board of Education president for the 2018-19 school year. So now we will open up the meeting for nominations for the president of the Board of Education.
Scott Levy.
A second. I move the nominations be closed.
Second.
I'll second that. Okay, all in favor of closing the nomination? Okay, nominations are closed. So all in favor of Scott Levy as president of Board of Education? And congratulations, Scott. And I'll swear you in a moment. Why don't we we'll open up the nominations for vice president.
Nominate Lori Cannon.
I'll second that.
Move the nominations be closed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of closing nominations? And all in favor of nominating Lori Canner as vice president? Electing Lori Canner as vice president. Thank you. Congratulations. Let me have them sworn in. Start with Scott. Scott, would you just stand? And read that.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Byram Hills District Board of Education president for the term of 1 year, according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
You get to nominate everybody for the Supreme Court? You get to nominate everybody for the Supreme
No,
Court?
wouldn't that be awesome?
And now we'll swear in the vice president. So if you want to read the oath.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Byram Hills School District Board of Education Vice President for the term of 1 year, according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Okay, and Scott, the meeting is yours.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. Looking forward to starting off a new year and working together with the board and with Lori. And we have all returning board members, which is nice from a continuity standpoint. We welcome Gina, who's a new face at our table, but not a new face to the district. So we look forward to working with you in a different capacity. But welcome here, and I think it'll be a great year.
Thank you.
And we also want to welcome Laura, who's new to our district, and we want to welcome her with open arms into the high school, and then Michelle as well, who's in a new role. So congratulations to you both. Okay, so first thing to mention is that the board had executive session this morning. The board met at 7:30 a.m. to discuss 4 matters. 4.1, which is a personnel matter, individual employee. 4.2, district matter, district finance and fund allocation. There was item 4.3, which is a legal matter, district revenue. And then 4.4, which is a district matter, intermunicipal agreement. With that, at this time, any comments from the public not on today's agenda? Hearing none. We have a series of business items that we typically take care of at the organizational meeting that really sets us up for the year in terms of various appointments that the district needs to make in order to run smoothly, in terms of various contracts that need to be put in place. So the next phase of the meeting will be to approve all of those. First is item 6. May I have a motion to adopt the annual organizational agenda?
So moved.
Okay, any questions, changes, or thoughts on this before we move forward? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Next is item 7. Do I have a motion to approve the appointments by the Board of Education for this coming 2018-19 school year?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Okay. Any questions? All in favor? All right, excellent. So we just appointed things like the district clerk and the district treasurer, the auditor, our banks, and many other items that is necessary in the normal course of business. And that brings us to item 8. Can I get a motion to re-adopt all of our board policies, including policy that governs school district officer and employee code of ethics, our investment policy, our purchasing policy, and our purchasing regulation policy, all for this new year?
Second.
Okay. Any questions on policies? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. And then resolutions. So I suggest that we do both resolutions together. There's 9.1 and 9.2. May I have a motion to approve 9.1, which is a resolution approving the designation of the Board of Education members to appoint an impartial hearing officer or officers for special education hearings, and then 9.2, which is an authorization settlement by the Director of Special Services in consultation with the Superintendent of Due Process Claims, all effective for this school year.
So moved.
Second? Any questions on this? Otherwise, all in favor? All right. And then lastly, our consent agenda. So we have consent agenda for personnel, for business, and for special services. We had detail in our packet that outlines all the items. Do I have a motion to adopt this consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions or items that are in need of further discussion? If not, all in favor? Okay. Excellent.
And that was personnel.
Yeah.
Personnel?
Personnel, and it's official. So congratulations on Laura, if I could just take a
Yeah,
moment,
please.
we're very excited to have you and your years of experience as an assistant principal with us at the high school. Through the entire interview process, I think you showed us what we value most in Byram Hills. You know, the qualities of hard work, the qualities of caring, and the qualities of trusting in the place that you are working. So we're so happy to have you here and be part of that, and are looking forward to our administrative retreat tomorrow and to spending some time with you and administrators working on our leadership skills. So welcome. Thank you so much. And Michelle has a very unique position in that she has been working in the high school as an aide, although a certified teacher, and has had the opportunity to see our curriculum, to understand the rigor. And I think pride in Byram Hills is that we have many aides that are basically serving in a capacity as teachers, who are certified teachers and who have helped our children along much more than what an aide would have been considered years ago, which is exactly why you were so highly recommended for the position when it became open. So we're so excited to see you continue the work with our children at the high school, and we know the pressures that these children face, and knowing that they are going to come to you every day and that you're going to be a support for them is really valuable for us. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to both of you. Lots of good luck. And they have to sing?
No, they don't have to say.
Enjoy your summer and come
Sure.
to the full
Yeah.
opportunity. Yep, we look forward to working with you both.
And now we should let them go home.
Yes.
You don't need to hear the rest, right?
Thank you.
Really
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes.
Very
Thank
much.
you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank
Take care, thank you.
family.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, so that brings us to item 14, unfinished business. We have 2 items to discuss this morning. The first one is charitable donations, and this is a continuation of the discussion that we started about the New York State legislation that was passed to provide a mechanism for school districts, for municipalities, for counties to allow residents to make charitable deductions and then get an offset for
Charitable
property
donations.
tax. charitable contribution in order to get tax deductions. So maybe if I'll pass it over to Jen just to give us an update in some of the work
Sure.
that you've done, because where we had left off was there were certainly a lot of questions that we needed to figure out before even thinking about how to move forward with this. So that's the phase that we're in, which is trying to gather additional information.
Right. I think first, it's important to note that we sought both counsels, Shaw Perelson Associates and also Bond Schoenig and King, to see what is their view of this and what kinds of risks are we taking, and do they actually have a tax attorney who would be versed in this language to help us to understand it.
Where the discussions we had with council are not going to be discussed at this table,
No,
correct?
they're not. So what we're basically waiting for at this point, after
Okay.
talking to council, is the identification of a person who may be able to come and address the board, to answer any questions that the board may have specific to tax purposes. And we have been advised that this IRS information is still yet to come forward, and that's a very important part for us. So knowing just that we have established contacts and that we are looking to see if the board would like to move forward with having somebody from Bond, Schoenig and King come and talk to us who is in this tax area.
I just want to say, I spoke with a board member from another Westchester district who happened to be talking about something totally unrelated, but we talked about it, and they also mentioned that, yeah, they're not doing anything until they hear back from the IRS. At least that their council hears back from the IRS and what views the IRS is taking on this. So whatever it's worth, other districts obviously are facing the same issues and are trying to gather similar information.
Also, Jim, did you want to add what your knowledge is of reporting from the municipalities? Jim reached out to them first.
We talked to the tax collectors, and their concern is that they would have to change their software, and the district were to move forward with something like this, we would have to do so very quickly in order for them to change the software and still be ready to collect taxes. They print their bills in the middle of August, so again, the time element that we had talked about before is fairly critical if the district is going to move forward. It was interesting, two of them mentioned that we were the only district that had reached out to them to talk to them about this thing. So I get the feeling, as I've talked to some of my colleagues, and people are just saying, we're going to wait and see what the IRS says, and it doesn't look like many people are going to be moving forward with this.
I think, I guess what I would say is that just given the importance of this to taxpayers in the community, I do think it makes sense to move forward, at least with the step of hearing directly from council what the potential liabilities are for us moving forward with this, just so that we know. Because I feel like we really do need to separate this question of ultimately whatever IRS regs come to what is the liability to our organization. If there's sufficient liability potential, that's something that needs to be heavily weighed and seriously considered. But if we're advised that there's not, then again, I'd feel more comfortable leaving this decision to a taxpayer than for us to make for the taxpayer. So I just think a natural step is to do our due diligence, to hear from council, and then we can have a discussion after we just get a chance to ask questions. And
But to that end, I guess my question would be, if time is somewhat of the essence, is what Jim's saying, is this something that's going to require us to meet before we gather again at the end of
Potentially,
August and
yes.
have a
brief
special
meeting.
meeting in a couple of weeks? I mean, I think it may be necessary.
yeah,
Mhm,
I
I
think
do
that
too.
makes sense.
And Jim, did you want to share what you learned from NYSER?
I was gonna say,
And then that meeting would be just limited to that one issue.
Exactly.
Susan and I did contact NYSER, our insurance carrier, and asked them about if we were sued, a taxpayer makes this donation or contribution and then tries to deduct it on their income tax, and then they're audited and fined or whatever and brought a lawsuit against the district, would we be covered? And they said, well, they can't tell unless they actually review the lawsuit because of the way that it may be worded. But they did say that the insurance would not respond to fines or penalties. So at this point, they're not saying that it would be totally excluded if a lawsuit was brought, but they're not saying that there would be coverage either. They're kind of in this area of.
Where insurers typically like to reside.
Leaving optionality open.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll move ahead with another meeting and we'll see if we can obtain that tax
Well, yeah, I
attorney
mean-
from
It
our
does sound a
council.
bit of a huge risk from what you're saying, regardless of what happens on the end of what the tax attorneys say with the insurance, but I agree with you that I think we need to at least,
Take the next step.
we need to take
Yeah.
that next step.
I think so.
Okay,
Okay.
set that up.
All right. Item 14.2 is the request to name the Byram Hills Theater. So just to do a quick recap, although we're all familiar with this from last year, we received a number of requests from various alumni through very heartfelt, amazingly written, and really inspirational letters about Gene Bissell, who was a teacher many years ago in Byram Hills and clearly made an impact on a lot of these students that are now our alums. We saw those letters, we were all, again, inspired by those letters in many ways, and the request was to name the theater after Gene Bissell. We looked at our naming policy and decided, given that it had been many years since that was looked at and really examined, we needed to go through an exercise of updating the policy, which we did last year, and then attach to that policy to the extent that there is a request that we feel rises to the level of needing to be seriously considered. There was a vetting process that was established by the board that would ultimately be carried out by the superintendent, and then the superintendent would report back that information to us so that we can make a decision about naming a facility. So I think where we are right now with this is to revisit this specific request, which we really did put on hold because of the thinking through the policy issues and the vetting issues. And I guess the way that I would frame it is I feel like there are two questions on the table for us to discuss today. One of which is deciding whether the request regarding Gene Bissell is something that just rises to the level of the language that we have in the naming policy of someone that we think should be vetted. And then the second question that I would also add in this instance, given how many years ago Gene Bissell was working at the district, is can someone from that many years ago be appropriately vetted by the superintendent to report back to us? Is that a reasonable expectation to put on the superintendent's shoulders? So I feel like those are probably the two questions that we should have a debate about and then figure out as a board collectively how we want to move forward, whether we want to discuss this again, whether we want to move forward with vetting, and then or whether we don't. And I think any of those options are on the table for discussion. I guess what I would say just to start the discussion is I feel like the power of those letters were such that certainly this could very well be an individual that may rise to the level of the things that we put in the naming policy as to making an extraordinary contribution. But I do have some reservations about how many years ago he retired from the district, and therefore our ability to thoroughly and thoughtfully vet an employee that hasn't been with us for so many years in a comprehensive way, which at the end of the day not only is about students but also about the faculty that was working alongside, about the administration with whom he worked and he was reporting to, and even the community at the time when somebody is actively here at Byram Hills, and then to ultimately do that vetting and then try to, in essence, measure the impact of someone from so long ago compared to the impact of someone from another generation or time, including right now or some of our recent retirees, I think is a very difficult task. So those are some of my preliminary thoughts about this, but I open it up for everybody to give their opinion on how we should move forward.
I will echo your thoughts on that. I think the letters were incredibly well written and very powerful. Yet I'm having an issue grappling with the time lapse. It seems like quite a generation ago that he was here, and it is a very difficult thing for our superintendent to vet at this point, given the time lapse. And there are many wonderful options aside from a naming that I think have been put on the table, such as awards and scholarships that will actually tell the community who this person was, as opposed to just putting a name. Like H.C. Crittenden, I had to research who H.C. Crittenden was, and our school's named after that person. I love the awards ceremonies where they actually tell about the person, and you really get a feel for who that person was and why this award is so special. So I do echo your sentiments.
I think that is enough here at least to proceed with the vetting process. And if the vetting process cannot be done completely, or there are shortcomings in it, whatever, that's part of the vetting process. And you come back and you say, this is what I found out, but here are the areas I could not vet. And then it's up to the board to decide how you want to handle it. There's nothing in the policy that says once you hit 20 years out, or 25 years out, or 30 years out, you're no longer qualified for this honor. I think enough of a case has been made by the community to us, I think at least to warrant going this next step and then getting a report back as to where we are. That's where I would feel comfortable doing. I would not feel comfortable at the moment simply cutting it off and saying it's unvettable, and so we shouldn't proceed. I think that's part of the vetting process.
I think because we have been kicking this around for so long, and we recreated the naming policy partly because of community coming to us with this, and we realized we needed to maybe formalize this process a little bit. If we had this policy in place, and if a request came in like that, we would look at this line here that says that we may not ordinarily name a facility for an individual organization unless exceptional achievement and/or contribution to the district is established. At that point, maybe we would have been kicking that around and saying yes or no and stopping it there. But given the fact that this request came, we've been talking about this request, and then we redid this policy, I think in this particular case, maybe we should go ahead and do the vetting.
I agree. I clearly, as Scott said, that those letters were so heartfelt, and, this gentleman had an impact on those, a great impact, and a positive one on the alumni that wrote to us. And, we know this means so much to them, and we have given so much thought to and time into looking on how to best, support what they would like. But we do need to vet the person in question, and we need that information, and we need it, from whatever the superintendent can find. And I think I agree that we should move to that. I agree with Ira and with Robin that we should move to that part of the process at this point.
I would agree with that too, moving forward with vetting. I think, Scott, you mentioned that because of the time, it being hard to measure the impact, but I think that the letters speak for themselves. That is the impact, that it has been such a significant period of time, and yet this man has made such an impact on a large group of people that it's certainly worth moving forward with vetting.
So as a next step, we can, I guess at this point, formally move forward with the vetting process, and then when you're ready, after you've gone through your process, then you can report back to us when you have your work done.
Sure thing.
Yep.
But, I want to say, with this vetting process, yes, the letters, obviously moved all of us, and this particular individual made an impact on a lot of people's lives. But I want us to, get the emotion out of it and really look at the vetting process and what is presented to us, and really, like I say, take the emotion out of it and really decide, does what we're able to find meet this criteria before we make the decision.
Absolutely. I think the vetting is for that purpose. And I think if we didn't, I think we'd be setting an unreasonably high bar to starting the vetting process, frankly. So I think this is the right move by the board.
Okay, great.
Happy to do it.
So we will bring that back to,
The next reorg meeting.
Yeah.
we'll bring that back to unfinished business as soon as the vetting process is complete, whether that's at the next meeting or whenever it's complete, because obviously it just needs to be done thoroughly.
Right.
So we look forward to
Whenever
that.
it's done.
Okay. There's no new business today, and so we go to staff reports. I turn it over to Superintendent Lemire.
Yes, I do not have a report, but I just wanted to give a welcome message to the Board of Education and to our school community, to welcome you to what starts as a new school year for us, even though families are enjoying some summer vacation. Scott, I appreciate very much you taking on the responsibility as the president, which last year, as I had said about Robin, it was really so important, not only for me as a new superintendent, but for the school community to have such an impressive board. As I said, respectful and respected in this community. So thank you for taking on that responsibility. And Lori, as vice president, I've been fortunate to work with you or know you both for a very long time. Your contributions to Westchester Putnam School Board, to members of this community, your work with the town will be continued after Robin's great work that she laid out for you. So thank you so much for that. And welcome back to every other board member. I'm so relieved that we have a returning board. It's so important to building in this community, and it's part of, I've been coming back since I was 21 years old, so it's good that you keep coming back also. And of course, Ira. Who's never leaving, right, who's my support and promises never to retire. Okay, so, and then, last but not least, Gina. Welcome you to the table. We know that you are the perfect fit for this position, and Gina's been tested in this position already as we're full throttle into our emergency planning for the summer, and her background also as a psychologist has been very helpful in a lot of our planning involving children and returning back to school. So Gina has already hit the ground running.
But do something about your nameplate, will you, please?
Couldn't be happier.
These are the classic names.
We will, no, that's it. We're all gonna go to paper.
That's right.
They're being green.
Gina, you know the ins and outs of Byram Hills, and your work is just gonna be fantastic here. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you
It's
so
a
much.
big challenge.
Yes, welcome, Gina. We really look forward to having you with
Thank
us.
you. I'm excited to be here.
And that's it, and to the school community and the greater community, I wish everybody a happy summer.
It seemed like last year just came and went, doesn't it? Here we are again.
Yeah, again.
It is. I don't have a report either, but I'll just point your attention to the preliminary Regents results that are in my section of the packet. I'll do a full report on the assessment data in September.
You know, I know this school district is so much more than college acceptances, but it's a very impressive list that Byram Hills did gather last year, I thought.
Yes, yes, it is.
It was.
A college list.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
to
congratulations
Yeah,
to those
the graduates, yes.
students and,
Yep.
you know, it's
And the
an exciting
parents who got
summer.
them there, and the caregivers who got them there.
And the parents who will be taking them there.
We were visiting
With
them
other
and shopping.
parents.
Orientation begins sooner than they think.
It's exciting time.
Shopping and then orientation.
Yeah.
Great.
Great, so just a few more things on board reports. I just have a few things to mention very quick. First is committee assignments. So it's that time of year again. So attached to the packet were last year's committee assignments and then some information on the different options. And so if maybe in the next week you can get back to me, and then Lori and I will kind of sit down and try to work through it. I would request maybe that you pick 3 committees that you're interested in and put them in sort of rank order of your preference, and we'll try to do the best we can to get everybody the roles that they're looking to fill this year as we move forward. The one probably with the most urgency is Westchester Putnam School Board Association,
Yes.
given that we have to get names to them. So that's why it'd be great if you can get the list to me in the next week, and then I'll be in touch, and Lori, and we'll work through everything quickly. The one thing that we may change this year, not definite, but we've been talking about it, is potentially for the Education Foundation to have a rolling liaison position. So maybe we each take a meeting rather than have 2 people dedicated, which would be
That's a
great.
really good
I think
idea.
that's a great
Yeah, just to
idea.
get board
Community
members
outreach.
exposure and good
Really
outreach
community
and
outreach.
yep.
I think that's a nice idea.
So we'll think about that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just to start thinking about board goals. Obviously not a discussion today, but as we get into September, it will be. The third thing is the New York State School Board Association Convention is in New York City this year, so it's logistically much easier. So if anyone wants to attend, they can look out for the registration, which opens fairly soon. And then last,
No, I'm sorry, just on
Yeah.
that, you can go simply to a few, you don't have to register and go to everything. You can simply go to a few of the presentations, programs. You can pick and choose what you want to do. Since it's in Manhattan, as Scott said, it may be worth taking a look at the programs and seeing if there are things that you'd like to do.
yep. Yeah, lots of really good educational
Yeah.
related programs. And then, of course, there's a vote on their resolutions and their priorities for the year that we have a voice in.
It would be nice if we could get a good showing this year.
Yep. And then we'll be in touch about whether there's a need for an interim meeting. And then the next regularly scheduled meeting is August 28th with staff development day the day before. Right?
Right.
That's all. Anybody have?
Isn't it the
Staff
same-
development
it's
is
the
same day.
Same
We're
day.
28th and 29th.
It's the same day. We have the walkthrough, not the walkthrough, we have the breakfast in the morning, then there's a presentation. And that night, we have the building tour, and then we have the school board
School
meeting.
board meeting.
Right. You were right.
Anybody else have any reports or?
Wasn't there, Ira, you probably know more about this than I do, Dan DeSano, didn't he just get an award this week for Westchester All-Star for baseball or something? He's-
Oh, through the Journal News?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was he all section?
Yeah.
I think there
Baseball
was,
award.
yeah, there was a baseball award. For those of you who read the Journal News, there are fewer of us every week it appears. There was an article about an AD that is going through severe health issues, and Mike Galino, our former athletics AD, our former athletics director, was written up nicely about his support for this individual. So if you can, I think it was in yesterday's Journal News, the front page story, and if you go to the inside the paper or online, you'll see a picture of Mike and Mike's work with this guy, and it's very heartwarming, I thought.
Thank you.
Okay. So then, on to item 18, communications to the board. There was one, and it was regarding policy 7500 and our vetting process. That brings us to item.
Oh, wait, sorry, just one more communication that I just got.
Ah.
It's really for all the board. It was from Bob DiMartino, who recently retired, our Italian teacher, and it's a wonderful thank you note to all of us, and I'll pass it around, that we helped make his retirement so special.
It's
So-
English or Italian?
Oh, how nice.
The note.
We wrote the notes in English. It's in English. Luckily, because I'll pass it around.
Right.
So, thank you,
Yeah,
Bob,
it's a very good
it was nice note.
That's very thoughtful.
Robin, it's also timely to note that Laura Jones was on this agenda, retiring as a Spanish teacher from the high school.
Special, yes.
Yes.
Adios.
Very special lady.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to all our retirees.
Yeah.
May they enjoy
Yes.
this weather that we're having now.
Yes. And no plan book for September.
So with that, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting from June 18th?
So
So-
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Oh. Just hold that mobile.
Hold on.
No, I did have something, and I'm sorry. It was just a heading, and you guys may want to change it. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Yes, a 10.3 is headed circumventing the tax law with charitable contributions. I can't say I'm crazy about that heading.
Circumventing, yeah. Maybe it's,
How about the tax law and charitable?
And
contributions?
Yeah, let's just take out the word circumventing. That seems to be,
Good point.
there seems to be an implication that we may not
Sure.
want to have. But that was my modification.
So with that modification, all in favor? Okay. And with that, I think we move to the adjourned. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Very nice.
Well done, Mr. President.
Yeah.